And I'm back like I never left. Welcome to the channel. I'm Johnny Jupiter. The last time we spoke, I was telling a story. And in this story, a lot of things happen. So this is a continuation. As per usual, right? This whole thing is about the journey. So in the last part, I was talking about going to see the psychic lady and the orb pictures, and I was asleep, and I felt like I was getting, my consciousness was being dragged up through a tunnel and all these things, right? So I remember when I was at the metaphysical shop the first time, I learned that they had a psychic and mediumship development class. And I was just like, y'all got classes for that? Like I can get a degree or what? What's the mechanics? How's this work? So they had a class, and I'm just like, okay, well, obviously I have to take this class. I have to see what it's about. Because again, it's at this point of the journey, I am simply wanting to understand. I'm wanting to understand what I'm capable of, what, just kind of what's going on. What does all this stuff mean? What's it look like? How do you learn this stuff? How do you practice it, right? So I come back on the, at the appointed time, on the appointed day, and, we have this class. So there are two separate ones. The psychic development and the mediumship are two separate classes, but they're back to back, same teacher and everything. But, some people may be interested in one thing and not the other, so they split them up. So this was cool because this was my first time kind of being in this environment with other people who have the same interest, and with the teacher, with somebody who can kind of guide, and she's been doing psychic and mediumship work for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. It's been something that she's done. I'm always impressed with these kind of people, because I don't know, to me, it's wildly fascinating. It just is. So the first part is the psychic development class. And I believe this is because I went a few times, so I believe this is the first time. So if we get in there, she's talking about, well, first, first they always set the room, set the energy, the space, which I didn't understand for a long time, but I'm getting a better grasp of that, in present day of how that actually works. But they set the space and everything. She does that before usually. But in the beginning, she's talking about, she's just in an introduction to it, and kind of like how it's used or how it's been used, and sometimes they use it to find missing people, or like the police have used it and worked with local psychics and stuff, and stuff that's fascinating. So there was a case, and we looked at a murder case, and this was back in I think it was 94. So I was like, I was a youngin' at this time. I was a little boy at this time when this happened. And so she gave us a little bit, right? Kind of a little bit was going on. And then she passed around, what did she say? She passed around an envelope, I believe. And we were just supposed to just put what we got. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to do? It's just write down what you get. I was just like, okay. So for some reason, all I saw, and it's funny because I can still visualize it now, what I saw, but it was a dark forest. Think like midnight for sure. just to ensure the darkness. Midnight, it was in a forest, big trees and stuff. And it was a slight fog. It's a very, very light fog. So it was dark, but it was also a little bit foggy. And that's what I kept seeing. Well, no, and I saw a car. I remember. I saw a car. And that was it. And I was just like, I see this dark forest. And so that's what I wrote on my paper. Right? And everybody wrote what they got, the impressions and things that they got. And as she goes back over it, and she's taking what everybody kind of got and is start outlining things as what happened. So turns out there was, I think it was at prom, they went out like this couple, like this group. It was like three, I think it was 3 people, like 2 guys and a girl. And they went out into the forest, and they were just whatever they were doing, kind of partying or doing their own thing, drinking, underage and stuff. So they kind of doing their own thing. And something happened, and the guy accidentally killed the girl. Somehow, I don't remember all the details. And so they drove out into the forest, and here's the thing, and here's why I got this. They drove out into the forest at night to basically dump her body. And that's why I was seeing the forest at night in a car, but I didn't know where I was getting that from, but that's what they were doing, because other people got other things that kind of matched up with it, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So it wasn't just me. I thought, that's the thing, getting over the thought that you're just making it up. And I think I referenced this in another video, that the imagination is the faculty by which you get intuitive hits, but you're not just making stuff up and learning to differentiate between, oh, I'm imagining a pink floating elephant with purple wings or whatever, like, versus you're not thinking of anything and then you're just getting stuff. So I was just like, okay, that's why I saw the forest at night in that car, but I didn't know what that meant. She explained, I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like surprised, because I did it on the first try. I was just like, oh, okay, wow. So that was interesting, but also kind of sad too, because of the murder of these children, and then graduating high school or whatever, and just kind of having this stuff happen. But it was interesting to see that I actually picked up something and it was correct. And we did another exercise, and it was another envelope thing, and I think it had a hint in it, or I was just trying to remember how she did it, but it was another envelope thing, and I'm like, okay. I'm just like, okay, all I see is, it was like taking a picture of a moment, right? Taking a picture of a moment. And every time I would imagine, that's what I saw, this picture of this moment. It was a beach, and I saw some water on the side, and I saw this, the umbrella, for some reason. It was a big umbrella, and it was really prominent for whatever reason. I'm just like, I don't know why, but I see this beach, I see the water, and I see this big umbrella that's really prominent for whatever reason. So we in our group, we all write down our thing, right? And then she comes around and she asks me, okay, what'd you pick up? I'm just like, all right, I see this beach, I see the water, and I see this really prominent big umbrella thing, hanging over. And she was just like, okay. Now, because she used something in her life, and because she went on vacation with her family. And she said, okay, the reason why you saw that is because we went to the beach, we were by the water, and there was this part of the theme of the hotel had like this big prominent umbrella thing. It was either outside of the building or when you first walk in the building, like it was really prominent in the thing. And I was just like, oh, okay. That's why I kept seeing that, and I didn't understand why. I'm just like, who brings an umbrella to the beach or something? It was kind of like that. For me, it was like throwing me off. And part of the reason why that's important is because, like, what I'm learning is when you're doing this kind of work, like, you can't you can't insert your logic in what you're getting, because it may mean absolutely nothing to you and everything to the other person, which is why it's important to like say what you're getting, because you don't know how it's gonna, how it's gonna resonate for the other person. It may be just the thing they need to hear. So that was really interesting, and I was just like, wow, like I can't believe that I'm intuiting these things. I don't know where it's coming from, but here it is. So that was really cool, and that was just the first part. That was the first part of the psychic development. Oh, there was also one more thing. There was one more thing that was really prominent about the first part, and it's called the chair exercise. So in the chair exercise, you have somebody leave the room, and then you have somebody else sit in a chair, and they imagine leaving their energy in the chair. Then they get up, then the person's outside the room, come back in, sits in the chair, and then reads the energy that the person left. So this is really cool, because they're like, oh, Jonathan, do you want to do it? And I was just like, what? Okay, I'll try. I'm just like, why do you want me to do it? I'm just trying to learn, man. I'm just trying to learn and observe. I wasn't trying to do stuff, because I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to see. So I was like, all right, cool. So I go out the room, and they have somebody sit in the chair. They do the thing, and I come back in. So the teacher is the proxy, because obviously you're trying to guess who sat in the chair, right? So I sit in the chair, and they're like, all right, just sit in the chair and just see what you get. I was just like, okay. And it's funny, because it's just like there's a horseshoe of people. There's like 10 people in there, and they're just watching you, just waiting for you to just, say what you're gonna say. So I'm just like, so for me, I notice when I'm doing stuff or intuiting stuff, I close my eyes. It seems to work better for me. Well, I'm learning this as I'm doing it. I think I mostly close my eyes so I don't see people staring at me. But so I close my eyes, and I'm just what I've learned up to this point was to not try to think of anything, just see what comes to you and just trust it. So that's what I did. So my mind is blank. The eyelids, the screen is black. I don't see nothing, right? And then slowly, now this is over the course of like 5 good minutes, but I'm gonna speed it up. First, I see like a screwdriver, right? Like a Phillips head screwdriver. And I'm just like, okay, I see a screwdriver. I'm just like, okay. Then, some more time goes by, and I see a hammer. I'm like, okay, I see a hammer now. Then some more time goes by, and I see like a saw. I'm just like, what is this? But now the thing is, though, when after that second and third thing, I'm like, okay, well, I'm seeing tools. Or I'm seeing tools. So I asked the teacher, I'm just like, who's the proxy? I'm just like, okay, I'm seeing tools. This person maybe do, does this person do like carpentry? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I'm seeing tools, right? And then I see a kitchen being redone. And it's like halfway, it's halfway done. Stuff is ripped off the walls and things are being replaced. It's obviously that a kitchen is being, redone and everything. So I'm just like, okay, I'm seeing this kitchen being redone, So then I see a man. He's wearing a suit. White guy. He's wearing a suit. Older guy. He has a briefcase, and then he gets in his car and he drives away. So those were all the things I saw him. So I see the man. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a man. Is it a man? She's like, no, it's not a man. I'm like, okay, well, I'm seeing a man. What do we? And he got in the car and he drove away. So, so over the course of like the 5 or 6 minutes or whatever, that's what I saw. And I'm just like, well, he's not a carpenter, it's not a man, but I'm seeing all this stuff, so what's going on? Now, my teacher she accidentally spoiled it. That it was the lady that was, one of the older ladies that were there. Um, but this is about that after like 5 or 6 minutes have elapsed or whatever, so it was about time to be done anyway. But you know, she accidentally spoiled it. It was like, oh, so okay, cool. So we finally get the resolution, and she said that she had her husband and her just divorced like 2 or 3 months ago after being married for like 25, 30 years. And he was a carpenter, and he did like remodeling. He like worked on houses and worked with tools and that kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh, well, that's what I was seeing. It was, and the fascinating thing was, I mean, obviously you're with somebody for 25, 30 years and you just divorced, 2, 3 months ago. That's not something that goes away, right? It's not something that just goes away real quick. You've absorbed so much of that person's energy, being together, just being in each other's space, having, coitus, all these things, being together for that amount of time, and then you split up. So it's like your energies aren't just going to separate like, just like that. So it was something that was weighing on her, it had been weighing on her. I imagine that she didn't want to get divorced, and that kind of thing. So, it was weighing on her. So that's why I was picking up his energy so much from her. And she had been carrying that around. And because I didn't pick up anything about her. It was all about her ex-husband. And I was just like, wow, okay. And just the other people in the room were like, good job with that, because that's a really hard exercise. And I had no idea. Like, I have no idea at this point, because this stuff is so new to me. I just did what I knew to do, was to don't try to make up things, just see what comes in. And just, again, things that didn't make sense to me, seeing a screwdriver and a hammer and a saw and a half-done kitchen and the guy driving away, none of it made sense to me, but to her, it was extremely relevant. And that was my, some of my first experiences with the psychic stuff. I was just like, oh my, okay, which was, again, very fascinating, right? Because these are things that I've never met any of these people before, but here I am intuiting certain things. So it was cool. So the next part was the mediumship development class. And this one was also very fascinating because well, yeah, you're talking to dead people, right? Remember the little boy from The Sixth Sense? I see dead people. It was kind of like, it was that. I was just like, oh snap. I was like, okay, let's see what this is all about. At this point, there's just I have such a curiosity, because this whole world is new to me. And I just want to, after the experience that I've had up to this point, I'm just like, okay, I'm on to something here, right? There's something about this. So, I'm going all in. So we start the mediumship class. Same thing, not opening ceremony, but setting the energy, the room, and all that kind of stuff, and that's we're just getting started. So the teacher, Jamie, she says, okay, I want to kind of practice doing the mediumship just in the open room, not anybody sitting particularly, just to see who is connected to you and who comes up. So I'm like, all right, cool. So she just wants to practice kind of doing that instead of having a one-on-one with somebody. I'm like, all right, cool. All right, I just want to watch. I just want to listen. I just want to learn, right? This is what I'm thinking. So she starts talking, and she's saying things, connecting. Okay, it's a man, and got kind of like this stoic energy, and saying all these things. I'm like, okay, stoic. Okay, that sounds familiar. Kind of a stern look. Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar. Used to work with tools. Like, yeah, that sounds familiar. And you should take care of the garden. Like, yeah, that sounds familiar. All these things that sound really familiar. And, used to do this and that, right? So Jamie goes, so does that sound like anybody's, relative or friend or somebody? And I'm about to raise my hand, but this other lady raises her hand real quick, like, oh, ooh, ooh, ooh. Nobody else, just her. And I was about to. So I was like, okay, I'm just up here learning. It's all good, right? So James like, okay. So she starts saying more. Yeah, he used to make toys for the children. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, yep, mm-hmm. She's just like, well, no, not that. And then, he used to do this. It's like, well, no, not that either. Meanwhile, I'm just like, everything you said so far, ding, 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 for me. So she's facing this woman like this, right? She's facing this woman, and let's say I'm over here. She's facing this woman. She says, okay, no, that's not it either. And she goes, Jonathan, does that sound like anybody you know? And I'm just like, yes, it sounds exactly like my grandfather. And she's just like, okay, yes, that's who I thought I was connecting with. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I got she put all her attention on me. And I was just like, okay, And she starts explaining a few more things. And I'm just like, yeah, that was my grandfather for sure. And so the point of this was, with mediumship was to first of all, who are you connecting with to get, who are you connecting with? Was it a mom, dad, grandpa, grandma? Was it, a masculine or feminine energy? Who is it? To get confirmation, to prove, okay, this is that person that you're thinking of, and to deliver a message. Like, we're basically teaching how to do mediumship readings for people. So she's going through and get confirmation and everything. And she's going through with the message, and it's just like, he was explaining how he was proud of me. My grandfather was he's kind of withholding a little bit, kind of just cards close to the chest type. He didn't really tell you exactly what he was feeling. He would just do little stuff like, go to the bakery, buy some cookies. I love you, and put in some cookies. He wouldn't tell you he loved you. He'd just get you some cookies or bring you back a candy bar. He always bring back a candy bar from the grocery store or from the UDF, United Dairy Farmer. Like, that's what we in Cincinnati, we got the UDF. So, that's how he would show his love. He didn't really say stuff like that too much. So it was cool because I'm learning that people, when they on the other side, that you can kind of get a more realer sense of who they are, who they were, because people, your spirit, your soul's is still learning. You don't die and like become all knowing. Like it's still a growth and evolution process. So, which is really fascinating. But it was cool because my grandfather at this point had been passed on for like 20 years at this point. And I thought like, oh, he's just been following me around for like 20 years because before this point, I was thinking about him really heavy, like 2 weeks before this moment. And so I thought it was really interesting. But so basically she was saying how he was saying that he was so proud of me for, although he would have never found himself in a place like this, when he was alive, which I was like, yeah, I could believe that. He was so proud of me for exploring and learning about this, despite the way I was raised, which really hit home for me because obviously growing up in a Christian home, I would have never done this type of thing normally. I would have never experienced it. It wasn't until I said, you know what, let me go explore and kind of go on my own and see what's out there. So, just despite being raised to kind of stay away from this stuff, he was proud of me for, hey, let me learn, which really was kind of, the emotion. There was so much happening. There was so much that had been going on up to this point, but it was really impactful for me because I was like, man, The man say he proud of me, like, oh my gosh, he said those words, some things just hit harder. Some things just hit harder than others. So it was really a fascinating thing to have that experience. I'm just like, wow, my grandpa it's just pulled up on me in the spirit realm, in the spirit world. And I think it was kind of interesting. I don't know, obviously I don't know every little thought about, my family, my cousins and stuff like that, but I don't know who else is kind of really looking into this realm of spirituality, the psychic stuff, the mediumship type stuff, and if things were to pop up, like how would he communicate? You know what I mean, or what would kind of happen? So I just think I feel kind of honored, like, oh, that I get to be potentially I get to be the medium for for certain things. I mean, because obviously my journey is still in its infancy. I don't know how things are going to progress, but I feel like that it's just cool knowing that, yeah, although my grandpa passed away 20 years ago, that he's still very much here. So it's like, okay, well, it's not just him then. You know what I mean? There's other family members, ancestors, of whom I've never met, but they're here, and that changes the dynamic. It changes things when you learn that, oh, they're not actually, like, when you get a realer sense that they're still here, just transformed is in a different way. So it's just like, okay, cool. Let me start really learning about this. So that was my experience, just getting a taste of mediumship, just as a recipient or as the sitter, because my grandpa popped up. Now, spoiler alert, my grandpa popped up like 2 or 3 more times with different people whom I've also never met. So again, not that I needed confirmation, but he got some strong energy. He got strong, even in death. He's got strong energy. Like, yeah, that's my grandpa. Which was really cool. So the next part, in this developed psychic or the mediumship portion of the class, it wasn't that we were just going to be read. We were also going to be doing reading for other people. Now this is interesting, right? Because I had never done that either. Now, based on the last hour, 2 hours, like, okay, I clearly got some aptitude, just like Helen said when I got that reading. I clearly have some aptitude, but I was just like, talking to dead people, can I do that? So I was like, all right, let's try it out. So I do 2 readings, and the first one, it was so cool because I did it on the first try. I'm just like, so this is one of those things I feel like we're just meant to be able to do this, but again, we don't listen. We're not still enough. We shut things off when we get little feelings and things. We shut it off, and then we bury it so deep, and it's but it should be something that's really natural for everybody to do. So I go through, I follow the her instructions and everything, and boom. So for me, again, I close my eyes because that seems to work good for me. But also, it's like I close my eyes and it's like they're not closed because I start seeing stuff. What's normally a black screen, now I'm seeing stuff. So I'm just, oh, okay. There's a guy here. And he had like the salt and pepper hair, and I remember I heard him speak just like a little bit. He had this kind of low but raspy, like a gentle raspy voice. And I was like, he's got a soothing voice, soothing raspy little voice. And he was wearing a suit. And so I'm basically, because I was like, okay, this is a man. I'm seeing him. I don't have to feel, I see, okay, it's a man, older guy. And so I'm looking for the confirmation. So I'm like, okay, what kind of things did you like to do? And he's showing me different stuff, and I'm asking the lady, like, okay, does this sound right? She's just like, I don't know. And it's just like when you think about it, like how well do you actually know your grandparents, especially if they died when you were really young? Like how much did you really get to know? Like my grandfather died when I was, I think 9 or 10. So I was a child. So, how much did I really know about him? I only saw what I could see. I didn't really get to know the depths, of his personality and such. So I get not knowing a whole lot. So we're just going, we're just looking for things like, did you like sports? What kind of things do you like to do? And I see now the scene switches and he's playing billiards, playing pool. I was like, did he like playing pool? She's just like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, did you have any other hobbies? And I'm seeing him in a garage and he's like, got tools and it's a car. And I'm like, did you like working on cars? And, I don't know. So then I finally asked, okay, well, what was your favorite food? What did you like to eat? So then we switch, and we're in this kitchen. It's an old kitchen, and it's got like a yellow interior. I'm just like a kitchen I've never seen before. Again, these moments I'm looking at stuff. I'm not making this stuff up because I've never seen this kitchen before in my life, But why this one particular? So I'm just like I'm in this guy's kitchen for sure. And he's like smashing this huge plate of spaghetti. And I'm just like, okay, I'm seeing him destroying this huge plate of spaghetti. Did he like Italian food? She was just like, he loved going to Olive Garden. That was his favorite place to eat. He always wanted to go there. I'm like, okay, this is him. This is your grandfather, right? So it was, when it's funny because it's actually kind of like her step grandfather, but that was her grandpa, right? So okay, this is him. And it was so neat because I was looking for a message. And I don't know if it was just because, it was my first time or the connectivity and, maybe my vibration was, just, again, my first time learning this stuff. But he didn't say anything to me. He just did like this. He just made a heart with his hands at the camera, at my vision. I just told her like he's making a heart with his hands. I think he's just saying, hey, I love you, I love you, which is a beautiful message to get, right? It's a beautiful message to get. But I thought it was so neat because again, I'm just, this is the first time I'm doing this, and I just felt cool because I'm having some good success with it. Although I wish I could have got a more comprehensive message, but that was it. That was the first one. And I was just like, woo. It was so cool. So here's the thing. And I think I'll talk about this next one, the next reading in another video. But I did my next reading. But I had been there for a few hours and I had this bottle of water with me and I hadn't taken a drink of water and I was getting thirsty. And I'm learning, especially talking to my best friend, I'm learning that hydration is really important for doing, mediumship, psychic stuff, or when you have dreams or get visions, because for some reason it uses a lot of water. So I go to take a drink of water and I immediately freak out because it tastes like straight alcohol. And I was just like, why does this taste like straight alcohol? And I get up and I'm freaking out because I'm looking somewhere to spit it out because I'm expecting crisp, clean water, not vodka. So I get up, I spit it out, and I'm just like, I yell out, my water tastes like alcohol. And I'm just like, huh. And the teacher's just like, I've heard of that happening. It's okay. And I'm just like, so the lady that I did the reading for, the first reading, she turns around and very seriously goes, well, what kind of alcohol? And I'm just like, I don't know, maybe vodka, I don't know. And she says, because my grandpa was a big alcoholic. And I said, what? So the same guy that loves the spaghetti and pool and all that kind of stuff, he's an alcoholic apparently. So I'm trying to figure out how that happened. So here's the kind of where it gets trippy. I had this water bottle, and it's a crystal water bottle. So there's a bottle, then there's like an egg of semi-precious stones. I have rose quartz in it, and it's the clarity of the egg is maintained on the inside because there's an alcohol solution that mixes with the stones to keep them so it looks pretty. So in this moment when it's happening, I'm just freaked out by it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So obviously I don't drink anymore. So the day's over, I go home, I tell my brother, right? I tell my brother about it. And I have him taste it, and he's just like, oh yeah, that's alcohol, that's gross. So he takes a closer look at the bottle, and he sees that there is like a hole in it, but not just a hole, it looks like it exploded. It looks like it exploded. And I'm gonna put a picture up so you can see, but it looks like it exploded, like it was charred. It wasn't just, and it's not a thing where, at this point I had never dropped the bottle for one, and even if I did, the egg on the inside wouldn't explode from that. If anything, the outside would crack, but it wouldn't explode. It was, and the rose quartz are pink, so you can, tell. They had burn marks on them, and there was a hole in the container, in the egg part, and I was just like, on the way up, that wasn't like that. It was just water in here. And because we were having so much trouble finding out, getting the confirmation for this woman's grandfather, he had destroyed my crystal water bottle because that alcohol in it to give me the, if I had taken a drink of it, like, oh, this tastes like alcohol, then she would have known, oh, that's definitely him because he was an alcoholic in life. And of course, I didn't take a drink till way after that reading was already over. But I was just like, oh my gosh, and it further harkened back to the idea that Spirit will use everything within the realm of your knowledge or within your grasp to help get prove the point or to get the message across. And had I taken a drink earlier, it would have been it would have been quicker, but it happened later, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And I was just like, wow, that's super fascinating. Yeah, I was a little upset for like 30 seconds because the bottle's like 60, 80 bucks or something like that, because it's all fancy and stuff. But I was just like, it was really fascinating because that it shouldn't, logically, right? Shouldn't happen. But there it was, and with this big hole in it, that and burn marks, burn marks in a liquid solution, burn in a liquid solution, like, you know what I'm saying? It's wild. So it always trips me out when I tell this story, but it's just so wildly fascinating. So that was my first day. That was my first experience, with the psychic part and then the mediumship part. That was my first experience doing it. I'll tell the next mediumship story in another video because this one's getting real long. I already know if I didn't split it up. But that was my first experience and talking to dead people, and I just was like, oh, this is so cool. To me, I'm just wildly fascinated by it. And the fact that I could do it and did it, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, bet. So yeah, just a quick little, semi-quick story, a story about that, about kind of doing mediumship and everything for the first time. I hope you enjoyed the story. There's more to come. Definitely more to come in the future. So stick around. Drop a subscription if you feel so inclined. And yeah, until the next one. Don't play the intro. There's still no intro. And there probably won't be for a while. Or ever.